Welcome to another episode of Flag Stays Down podcast. Chelsea won, Nottingham Forest won. Forest was down a man. We are also down a man. You got myself, Andy. You got Matt. Parker is MIA for the evening. So Matt, how you doing?
Doing good. I survived Disney. Came back with the whole family in some sort of tact. Wife and I are battling a bit of a bit of an illness. But you know, shit happens. But no, it was a good time. Just to kind of hang out with the family, go to Disney. Little man was just through the roof. Just taking everything in, love seeing everything. Got to see, Mickey is his favorite, so we had lunch with Mickey, and so he had himself a great time. He slept extremely well, which is something that is a very rare in this household for him. So we were pretty happy about that. But the weather was great. Yeah, all things considered, it was a successful trip, as my wife and I called it. Um, but yeah, so it was all good, and then so we got back last night, then woke up, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go actually sit down and watch a full Chelsea game for the first time this season without interruption. So it was good to finally watch a game. Collins, I'm sure you and Parker are going to wish that I stop watching games full time now because we didn't win. So I will take that into consideration next time. Um, but no, all is good. Happy to be back. Collins, how are things with you?
Oh, we're glad to have you back. Glad you made it back in mostly one piece. Um, no, it's all good. Spent the weekend celebrating my dad's 70th birthday. So big shout out to Big Mark on on that wonderful milestone. We got Nicole's birthday, my wife's birthday this week on Tuesday, and so it's just one of them weeks. So, uh, no, so very blessed to have wonderful people in my life, and happy to be celebrating their birthdays this week. Well, Matt, celebrate or not, you got to watch that Chelsea game in full, uninterrupted, and live. 1-1 was the final result, coming back to rescue a point, drop points, however you want to phrase that. But what are your first impressions?
It felt a little bit like Chelsea last year, pounding on the door, can't find that first goal early on. We concede in the second half very early, and then we somehow manage to find a way back. Then it looks like we can maybe get a point, or that we're going to get a point. Maybe we can get the 3 points. A lot of very good efforts that we all thought should have been goals, but weren't. And then you look at the flip side, Forest go down to 10 men. James Ward-Prowse does very uncharacteristic James Ward-Prowse things. Um, and yet 10 men Nottingham Forest decided to give us a run for our money with a couple of very, very good chances late that were stopped and thwarted away by Big Bob and the defense. So very nervy at the end of the game. I'm okay with the point. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm okay with it. I think with how the game went, the opportunities that both teams were afforded, I could have seen either one of the teams walking away with the three. So I think, and if you kind of look at it that way, chances were there, chances were taken, chances weren't taken. It's a game that could have gone either way. So I think a point is reasonable.
Yeah, it's reasonable, and certainly could have gone either way. And Kunku had an open header late. Joe Felix had an open header late. Um, Cole Palmer was uncharacteristically off target throughout much of the match. Um, but my big takeaway is that there's too much respect given to Forest. Chelsea, as you mentioned last week, Matt, struggle in this fixture year in and year out. Having Malo Gusto being that inverted wingback when you have Cucurella on the pitch was not an ideal move. Gusto did fine in that position, but Cucurella thrives. but to hold Kukurea back to prevent Callum Hudson-Odoi from doing anything, I don't know. have a little bit of faith in your center backs. Colwell and Fofana both have a little bit of pace to them. Yeah, too much respect given there. Play your game, play the way you're going to play offensively, defensively, and let the opponent adjust to you. Now, you know, it's okay for the occasional adjustment, but to make that big of a change for a team that, are they going to do anything in the Premier League this year? No, probably not. Just seemed a bit extreme for me.
Yeah, I think what kind of threw me off was Callum Hudson-Odoi on the right. Um, from watching Forest last year and specifically Cho, he was very dangerous on the left, not so much on the right. So I thought that was really interesting that Forest even put him out there on the right to begin with. Um, it seemed weird to me, but I tend to agree with you. I don't think Gusto did bad by any stretch. I thought he had a pretty good game. But I do think Cucurella is, I think, the better fit in that position. Um, just with what he's able to do and his ability to break up play. I think Gusto is the better one-on-one defender. And Cucurella is more of the kind of your hustle guy. If you need to take one for the team, he's going to do it, no problem. But yeah, I think Cucurella in that role fits a little bit better than Gusto, but I mean Gusto played it well. So I don't really have too many complaints on that. Um, yeah, it was just kind of it was interesting. Some of the moves throughout the match I thought were really interesting. Um, Especially taking off Enzo, who is, your orchestrator of a lot of things when you have a 10-man team pinned down and you're going to be doing a lot of passing to try and break down a stronghold defense. I thought that was weird to kind of take him off. Um, and also Mudryk coming on. Not that I don't love seeing Misha at all, but it's very similar. You have a team that's setting up in a low block, all 10 behind the ball. That's not where Mudryk shines. Like he needs to be in an out and out game and just run and do whatever. And granted, the time that he was able to go out and run, he flew down that pitch on the left side and put in a delicious ball to Christopher Nkunku, who just put it right at the keeper, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, Mudryk did well for the little bit he was on. I was just a little bit confused by bringing them on, just kind of in that order. Like Caicedo, he's fine passing the ball, but he's not going to unlock a defense. He's just going to be there to kick it around. Enzo is the one with the vision. So I thought it was interesting to kind of take him off, knowing that that was likely going to be the scenario that we would have to try and break down that low block.
Well, and I think that's a byproduct of showing too much respect for Forest is, because Cucurella was pinned back, quote unquote, in defense, Enzo had to be that overlap on the left, which he did not thrive in whatsoever. That is not his position. Cucurella would have been better off there, but in terms of the subs, I thought they were the right moves, but they were all about 10 minutes too late. Misha would have been great coming on when Forest were still at full strength. Uh, they're pressing forward, trying to get a goal, trying to steal 3 points. Misha would have been a good option there. Pedro Neto would have been the sub to bring on right after the red card, which he came on right around there. But that would have been the better swap there. And Kunku was a weird one for me. I understand he's on quite the scoring streak right now, but he doesn't really fit that, beating a low block late in the game kind of mold. Jackson, I thought fit that better, but could be fatigue, could be tired legs. We saw him get frustrated towards the end there. Who knows there? But talking of attackers, let's get to our first topic of the day, and that is Noni Madueke, the goal scorer. also seemed to be the most controversial, according to Chelsea Twitter. Uh, Matt, what did you make of Noni today?
I liked what I saw out of him. Um, I thought he was very dynamic. He was tearing apart that right side. Taking people one on one. Was the end product maybe the most productive every single time? No, I thought some of the decisions that were made were not the right one, but it's a game. And Collins, you I think it was you in the group chat who said it perfect. Quote Michael Scott, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Like it's true, and like we've always harped for years. I think ever since we started this pod, shoot the ball. We would say that at least 15 times weekly. We have people that are hungry and that want to score goals. So I'm okay with it, but I think at certain times there are other better decisions that could have been made. And you saw that early on. You saw a lot of frustration very early on, which some of it I can understand, some of it I don't. But it is what it is. And then I couldn't help myself but laugh when when in the group chat, you and Parker were, I don't want to say calling for Noni's head, but you were disgruntled at what you were seeing out of Noni. And then 2 minutes later, he scores. So I thoroughly enjoyed that, um, as was well noted in that group chat. But I honestly, I thought he played well. I think that he's in a position right now where it's his spot to lose. I don't see Pedro Neto taking over that spot, at least right now. Um, but outside of that, I think it's basically his. The big thing is his ability to take people on. I mean, he was so dangerous on that right hand side. Very threatening, got into good attacking, dangerous positions. And sometimes it worked out and other times it didn't. But you have to find yourself in those positions and sometimes create those positions for yourself. And he does a very good job of that.
Yeah, and that's the I guess the disadvantage of us potting a little bit later after the game, because I agree with you a little bit. I'm not as fired up as I was earlier today. Noni got himself in the right position. Um, Now it's his final decision making that was pissing me off. Yeah, the shots from we'll call it a 30-degree angle, less than a 30-degree angle, and always putting it inside, off target inside, blow my mind. It's a 0% shot. If we're looking at XG, and Matt, I know you love XG. Those shots are worth 0.05, 0.06. You're not expecting a goal out of those whatsoever. I honestly wish that Noni knew that Maresca's comments after Brighton about, oh, hey, a player scores once and all of a sudden they think they're top of the world, uh, a Ballon d'Or winner. I don't think Noni knows that those comments are about him. And granted, Maresca's never said like, "Hey, I'm talking about Noni," but it's very clearly there's one person on the team, and I'm all for a guy who's got a little bit of an ego, but there's been 3 or 4 times now this year where he takes a terrible shot and he has somebody wide open at the top of the box. In this instance today, it was Cole Palmer sitting open at the top of the box. Uh, the decision making just has to be better out of Noni. Now, I will say, Parker mentioned in the group chat, Noni is a B player. I wouldn't go that far. B plus. We'll go B plus. But Matt, for you, is he a recurring first team player for you, or is he kind of that cup player for you?
I think he has to be first team. I haven't seen enough out of Pedro Neto to say yes, he deserves that spot. I think it'd be interesting to see Mudryk on the right, but I think it would be extremely uncomfortable for him. Um, And outside of that, I mean, what else do you do? Like, yeah, you could slot Palmer out there and then bring Nkunku in as a 10. Like you could do a lot of different things, but I think if you move Palmer out to the left, you're taking away arguably your best asset, which is called Palmer floating around and kind of doing his thing. Um, so for me, I think it's pretty cut and dry that he is the first team player.
And do you think there's a reason why there wasn't a whole ton of balance in what flank we were going down today? It seemed pretty heavily down Noni's flank, and you could see quite a few guys getting visibly frustrated when he would fire off a terrible shot. Um, you got Jaden Sancho down that left, who we've been praising and hyping up the last couple of weeks. Do you think that comes down to the opponent, or I don't know if it's feeding the hot hand, but why not spread the wealth a little bit?
I think you actually mentioned it. I think you brought up the reason before. Who was Sancho's partner on the left? It was Enzo.
Yep.
And that was the thing that was actually pissing me off probably the most in this match. Enzo could not get out of the way to give Jaden Sancho space to operate. Like he couldn't. He just kept like coming right next to him. Like Sancho needs some room to operate. He can take people one on one, no problem. But it's like Enzo didn't know what to do. Should he make this run? Should he not? He was not at all comfortable with working with Sancho. Um, and again, like you said, with Gusto coming in as that inverted wing back and Kukurea staying deep, I think that just was a log jam down the left side and nothing was able to operate. So I think at the end of the day, then you have to go to the right. And I thought the right, it worked really well. You have Palmer and Noni doing their thing. I saw a lot of good things, a lot of creativity going down that side. Enzo in the attack in this game was not the right call to have him that far up and paired with Jaden Sancho. It was doomed from the start. That's kind of the only way I can say it. It wasn't going to work. There really wasn't a chance for it to work. So I think the only option you had was to go down the right. And I thought that they did a very good job on that right hand side.
Yeah, they did pretty well down that right. It just, man, it would have been nice. Sancho was looking pretty silky out there, but I think you're right. And honestly, I mentioned it, but I didn't even think of it. Is Enzo being his overlap was of no help whatsoever. Enzo playing a little bit more centrally would have been great to break the lines. With his passing through the middle there. I think of some of those loopy balls over the top to a Jao Felix or to an Nkunku, to Nico Jackson. It would have been nice having him there instead of out wide where he doesn't really do anything. Have Kukure out there at least take up space, and take away a defender from Jaden Sancho. But at the end of the day, Noni got his goal. We almost had a couple more. Finishing was maybe the bigger issue there. But Nottingham Forest had their shooty boots on, we'll say, especially towards the end there. Uh, it stayed 1-1. Mainly, I didn't run a poll on this one, but mainly because our man of the match, Big Bobby Sanchez, making some big stops. Matt, what do you make of my guy, Bobby Sanchez?
Yeah, he had a great game. He had a lot of really good saves, a lot of big saves late in that match. The one that I think about is where Nico Williams basically had whatever option he wanted on the left side shooting at Sanchez. He could have gone near post, he could have gone far post. He had it pretty much wide open from, I don't know, 15 yards. Um, and it was a hell of a save at a crucial point in the match. Um, you know, eh, as much as I love fighting with you about Bobby Sanchez, the man stepped up. And I'm seeing more of that is that he is stepping up with a lot of those big saves and big moments. Um, I, I did I did catch my errant Bobby Sanchez pass, which almost led to a goal, which okay, fine. You're due for at least one of those a match. Um, The one thing I wanted to ask you about was the Nottingham Forest goal. It looked like Sanchez dove after the ball hit the back of the net. It looked really late. And when I was just looking at the replays of it, it looked like he was still like moving back and not set at all. And that ball came off a set piece, didn't it? If I remember correctly.
It did. It did. And, James Ward-Prowse pretty consistently causes problems for us. And, I didn't look to see exactly how Sanchez handled that. I'm bringing up the highlights of it now. Um, just give me a minute.
It when I saw it, it looked like he was still trying to get himself set. And by the time he did get himself set, he had planted and the ball was already going the other way. So when you see like, and again, slow motion makes things look probably a lot worse than they are, but the ball had already crossed and Sanchez just hit full extension in the air. And it just looked like he wasn't set, which is a little bit perplexing to me on a set piece, how your goalkeeper is not set. So I was just curious to see your take on it. And again, I'm I'm not purposely trying to shit on him. I am just curious as to know kind of what your thoughts are. Overall, I thought he had a really, really good game and a really strong game, and he saved us. He saved us a point. I don't think it's even a question at that point, but yeah, he definitely came in clutch when we needed him to.
Yeah. So, all right. So I've had the chance to watch it back now. And first of all, I agree. I think he had a fantastic game because he was tasked with doing what he does well, and that is shot stopping. Yeah, Colwell and Fofana kind of run the distribution out of the back. Um, all Bobby had to do was be in the box and stop shots. So he did well because that's what he does well in. I'm looking at, I've watched the replay now a couple times. He goes higher than where the ball skips. So, I should watch it back right now. I was going to say maybe it went off Caicedo's toe, but it didn't. Uh, I'm thinking maybe he was anticipating some kind of deflection, some kind of bounce off the ground because that thing hit the ground and just died, rolled into the back of the net. Sanchez went high with his jump. It's a tough play overall. I don't pretend to know anything about goalkeeping. Other
Nor
than
do I. Nor do I.
yeah,
It just when I saw the replays, it looked like by the time that he had planted to dive, the ball was already going across. It was already going the opposite way. So it looked like his feet were not even set. At that point, he was still moving around trying to get set to even make a play one way or the other. So it just looked it just
and that
the common sense thing is like it's a set piece. How are you not set?
well, I will say that it does look like that ball was almost in a little bit of a no man's land, especially with how high Chelsea were playing that defensive line um, on the set piece. And we've seen before that is another one of Sanchez's big struggles is do I go, fuck it, do it myself, or do I sit back and hope my defense can clean it up enough that I can make an easy save. Um, so yeah, his feet may have been shuffling, trying to figure out, hey, do I just go get this myself, or do I let it come to me? Um, yeah, it's a tough one, but it's been kind of the theme of Chelsea this year of you leak in goals against the run of play. This one I don't put on Bobby though. This one is weak set piece defense, but all in all, set piece defense, set piece attacks have been a different story, but set piece defense, better than it was last year, we'll say.
Yep, we're making small strides.
All right. Well, talking about the defense, it seems to be pairing A1 of center backs is Wesley Fofana and Levi Colwell. They've had their ups, they've had their downs, but we have a large enough sample size, I would say now, to measure where they are at as a partnership. Matt, going into the season, I'm gonna guess this is probably what you would have pegged as your starters. Well, maybe not Fofana. You were a little bit down on Fofana, but definitely Colwell. What do you make of this group now? A handful of games into the season.
So I'm kind of torn on this one just because we kind of knew what we were getting out of Levi Colwell. We kind of knew, and I say kind of because he spent half of last season as a left back. So like we kind of knew what we were getting out of him. A little shaky at times, but he can be, that rock back there. He's a strong physical guy when he needs to be. He's quick when he needs to be. Um, so I was okay with him. Um, but then you look at Fofana, obviously coming off of his injuries and everything like that. You didn't know what you were going to get out of him. I think today was probably the best I've seen him play in a Chelsea shirt. He played extremely well. He had no problem taking the ball himself. Getting, you know, biting up on on attackers. Doing a lot of little things. It looked like he just kind of kept motoring through and everything like that. So I was happy with the way that he played. Do I think this is our best center back pairing based on who we have? I have to say yes. But it's still not elite like you would want for a Chelsea team. It's not elite by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's a mid-table center back pairing. That's kind of how I look at it. I don't think you'll win a lot with those two as your primaries. I do think you need more of a physical presence, a more well-rounded, maybe more experienced center back in that position. Because I think both of them, they're what, 24, 25, something like that. That's pretty young. And yes, you do see some young defenders that are, out of this world and stuff like that, but I wouldn't put them in the top 10 in the world by any stretch of the imagination right now. I think they're mid for a, a Premier League center back pairing, but I think it's the best that we have right now. So I think we have to roll with it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that they are mid at the moment. Um, yeah, obviously, I'm very public. My my assumption that Axel Disasi is one of our better center backs on the squad. But just like with everybody else, he comes with his mistakes. Uh, just for reference, Levi Colwell is 21. Wes Fofana is 23. Very, very young, especially when you look at some of the title contenders. You look at teams in the Champions League. Um, we have a very, very young group back there. I still think that Fofana has potential to be a world class center back. Obviously, what was his ACL that he tore? Um,
ACL, and then he had an ankle.
yes, he had an ankle after that.
Yep.
So not only did he lose out on a year, but man, that Matt, that sets back your development too. Um, so in terms of Wes, he's 23, but I think you can look at him as about a 20, 21-year old. He needs maybe another year and a half of consistent top flight football um, to get to where he needs to be. Levi Colwell seems to be a little bit more seasoned, but he has been consistently playing now for 3 years at the Premier League level. So again, he's going to have his mistakes, but he's 21. How many 21-year-old center backs do you see starting for a European team in England?
Right, exactly.
Uh, I will say I apologize. I'm a bit distracted. I'm watching Dodgers Padres at the moment, and Dodger fans are throwing stuff at Jerks and Profar in left field. They've stopped the game, and it just I don't know why, but it gives me flashbacks to a couple of years ago when the anti-oil activists handcuffs themselves to the goalpost at the City Everton game, and Jordan Pickford goes over and is basically just mocking the guy the whole time. Um, all right. Well, man, talking about all that, so that's a good transition into discipline. Chelsea about to be fined £50,000 for their second match this season, accumulating 6 or more yellow cards. The only team to have done that more than once on the year. Um, we've got a handful of people who are going to miss out on next week's match or 2 weeks match against Liverpool, including Malo Gusto. I believe I saw Moises Caicedo in there, and of course one of your center backs, complete,
Fofana.
yeah, Fofana. So, Matt, I think we have a discipline problem, but does all the blame go on Chelsea for that?
I mean, possibly. I mean, you could pretty much take any side of the argument that you wanted to in this. I think some of it is, I don't want to say maturity, because we've been down this road many times before. Um, and the one I'll call out is going to be the one for Nico Jackson, which this one hit a new point for me. The fact that he was pushing his own teammates, I think that's a whole different level. Like, if he doesn't get the ball, he's just a pissed off teenager, and that just annoys the hell out of me. His teammates are calling him back because he's trying to do something, either get the spot of the ball moved half a yard or whatever the case is. It's not going to change. And now you're starting to get into an argument with the whole team, with the whole Forest team over a half a yard. Like, fuck it, move on. And then as his team is trying to reel him back to avoid him getting a yellow, he starts pushing his own team. Like, grow the fuck up. Like, the team does not revolve around you, clearly. If you haven't figured that out yet, then he needs some sort of special help, because that's absolutely ridiculous. The other stuff, it's just how physical we play. Like Kukurea, he plays very physical. Our center backs, they also play physical. Um, we can also look at the officiating, and Collins, you brought up a really good point. And during the match today, yet another referee who lost control of a Chelsea game. It's just constant. Like, set the expectation early, don't let the game get out of control, and then you don't have to dish out so many yellow cards. Anthony Taylor has had, what, 3 of our matches so far this season. He's probably accounted for over half of those yellow cards. You could look at it from any number of viewpoints. I don't think it's a discipline problem as far as like all of our yellow cards. I think it's just the way that we play. We see other teams play very physical and they don't accumulate as many yellows. Like, if we're a physical team, we're going to play physical. The officials should know that. If they don't want it like that, fine. We'll then set the expectation early during the match. And I think officials have completely lost sight of what is a yellow card and what is not, when to give them, when not to give them. And for more of an argument, which team to actually give them to is probably another question. But overall, I don't think it's a discipline problem from Chelsea's standpoint.
Yeah, and today it was Chris Kavanaugh. Yeah, he averages almost 6 yellow cards a game, handed out. So he's already given out 3 reds this year, which we let's see, he's done 5 matches so far in the Premier League. He's given out 3 reds. Some of it, as always, goes on the Premier League refs. Another portion of it, I think, goes on us being a young team, an immature team that has yet to really find its footing. But I think what goes along with both of those is that we have now painted a target on our back for officiating teams. Word is, of course, going to get around, has gotten around, will continue to get around, about, hey, Chelsea's a little reckless. And so, referees are going to be more ready to pull the trigger on those cards with us. But today, like you said, that I said, it got out of hand, and it was another official who just lost control of this game. I'm still confused. Why James Ward-Prowse's falling on the ball as the last defender, grabbing it with his hands, was a second yellow. I know he got sent off for it with the second yellow. Um, should have been a straight red. Should be a longer suspension for him uh, in the Premier League. So just little ticky tack things like that that don't seem to be issues in other countries are issues here in the Premier League. Are issues here at Chelsea. James Ward-Prowse red should have been a straight red, but
Yeah, because there was another defender who could have possibly, who was like right at the halfway line, who you could make the argument for. It wasn't like clear cut. So
yeah.
I could see it. Either way, it was still a red. However you want to look at it, second yellow, an actual red doesn't really impact us any different.
No, I was thinking more long term. You know, 2 game suspension over 1 game suspension kind of thing. But all right, let's. We got computer issues, we got baby issues. We'll wrap it up. Because I'm also fucking tired. I'm ready for bed. All right. Well, Matt, that pushes us. Uh, well, not an hour, but close enough. Any closing thoughts from you?
The first Chelsea match that I got to sit down and enjoy uh was kind of a barn burner, but very anticlimactic at the end. So I'll let you boys tell me if I should watch the next one or not.
We'll put it up on the poll this week since we did not do a man of the match poll against Bobby Sanchez, just the outright winner there. So make sure to check out that poll at Flag Down Pod on X. You can follow us on all social media by searching at Flag Down Pod. Uh, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Still coming up with the contest for the funniest review. So stay tuned for that. But Matt, it's been a pleasure. Welcome back to Wisconsin. Welcome back to the real world. And we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, man. Thanks.